Doug's got some age on him, he doesn't remember a lot of things. So the battery's like, oh Sam, I changed it last year. I'm like, yeah, but last year was 5 years ago. So I charged it several times and it wouldn't hold a charge. So we're not about to go on the great race with an old battery.
You know, it always held a charge for me.
Yeah.
Welcome to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. We have an action-packed episode of automotive excitement. First up, Sam installs a new Flowmaster exhaust system on a C6 Corvette, unleashing its true power and sound. Then Sam and Doug take us on a tour of the GT350, showcasing all the work that they've completed. Next, Sam demonstrates his expertise as he finishes assembling a 392 HEMI engine. And finally, Sam dives into troubleshooting a 66 Chevelle, tackling challenges head on. Sam and Julie are revving up the excitement as they take on the C6 Holley Corvette project. They're replacing the modified stock exhaust with a brand new Flowmaster exhaust system. Join us as we witness the perfect blend of performance that will not only sound better, but look amazing.
Welcome back to our Holley C6 project. Today what we're going to be doing on this C6 Corvette is going to be the Catback exhaust system. Luckily, the whole exhaust system is intact. Yes, they did modify the rear by completely cutting out the mufflers, so it sounds really obnoxious. Instead, we're going to put that classic Flowmaster sound to it.
Well, the Flowmaster system looks really nice.
It's going to sound just as good as it looks as well. But you know what else is missing in this car?
What's that?
We're going to have to probably think about that shifter as well.
It's not a bad idea.
I don't like it. Let's get started. You going to take out the old exhaust for me?
I'll help you.
Awesome. This is going to be a slip fit tailpipe. You can see right here, the tailpipe slips into the midsection. Best thing to do first, a little bit of lube. What that's going to do, the lube is going to wick into the joint, and that's going to make it a lot easier for you to be able to slip those two apart from each other. So even though you guys removed the mufflers for better flow, more horsepower, look at that bend. That's what we call a crush bend. So when you do that and it's not a mandrel bend, it restricts the pipe diameter right here, doing no different than what the muffler would have done, which is to add restriction. So it's always best to go with a nice aftermarket exhaust like Flowmaster. So when they modified the rear section of this exhaust system, they had to modify the hangers to make it work for them. What they did was on the passenger side, they took the two hangers and they turned it 180 and bolted it back in place. So I'm gonna go back to factory. I'm gonna go ahead and remove those hangers, put them back on the car in the correct rotation, and then go ahead with the Flowmaster exhaust. In the sway bar, all you gotta do is take it off. You can leave the end links attached, swing it down. That gives you plenty of room to R&R the mufflers. So this particular rear section right here was a little bit longer, so I couldn't fit the pipe in between the center section and the subframe. So I had to remove the center section. It's just 4 little bolts, remove it, bring it down. Actually 2 more bolts for the hangers right here. Now what you saw me do is when I removed the center section, I used a pipe expander. Because the tolerance between these two pipes were so small, it was very hard to get them together. But when you use a pipe expander, it takes 5 minutes to do that, and these things will slip right in. You saw how easy they slipped.
That was actually really cool.
Yeah. So what Julie's doing is very important. The last thing you want to do is get that exhaust hot without wiping your fingerprints off of it, because then your investment's going to look like it's got fingerprints all over it forever. Now, Flowmaster gives you new clamps, but because we reused the center section on this car, the clamps have tack welds to keep them in place. They're the same clamps as these. There's no reason to use these. Put them in your toolbox for the next project. So then this thing is completely done. You should expect to pay 2 to 3 hours worth of labor if you wanted to get this done at the shop, depending on the experience level of the technician. Now, because the OEM mufflers were out of here, it took off an hour's worth of labor because they made it a lot easier. But taking that sway bar off, minutes, Doing that with the center section, the whole thing should take you 2 hours.
Yeah, that was easy.
Yeah, so it's gonna sound a lot better too. Make sure you take the time to line up your tips, okay? Do it on the ground, look at them both, do it in front of it, look at it straight, take your time, make your investment look really good. I mean, we all remember back in the day in the mid-90s when Flowmasters were on Fox Body 302s dumped in the rear axle. Sounded sick. You knew when it came down the road for a while, that thing's got Flowmasters on it. This thing's gonna sound a whole lot better because it had no mufflers before. And Chevys tend to sound raspy when they have no mufflers, loud and obnoxious. So it's gonna sound a lot better with those Flowmasters. Do you remember how mad the neighbors would get when I would let the car warm up in the morning? It was good days.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. Sam and Doug are taking us on a tour of the GT350, showcasing all the work they've completed to prepare for the great race. From transmission upgrades to performance tuning, every detail has been meticulously crafted for maximum reliability. Sit back as we rev up the excitement and get one step closer to victory.
Sam, you know, we've come a long way on this car getting it ready. Still going to have to do a lot of shakedowns on it. I got to get some real good miles on it just to make sure we don't have any surprises. I mean, we've covered everything. We've looked at the wheels, we've done the radiator, we've gone through everything on it, we've checked the brakes, we've made all these changes on the car. Now I just need to shake it down because I don't know what I don't know.
The wheels look good. The new tires provided by Tire Distributors of Georgia turned out really nice. The Mickey Thompsons, we got fresh rubber on there. We got white letters, period correct.
But you know, one of the crazy things about fresh rubber is the diameter is different. So that's why I got to calibrate everything. I got to make sure everything's right.
The diameter is different. The 5-speed's different.
Yeah.
Totally different. So luckily the speedometer cable went right into that T5. So that was a nice little surprise. And then that shifter looks really good. Sitting there in the middle, looks like it was factory. That's going to work out good for you. The seating position's nice.
Right.
The heater core is taken care of.
Yeah.
So we don't have no worries there because it's not going to be hot. We're not going to need AC because it's June and
Right.
we're going through the northeast.
Yeah.
So I think the heat's just fine. The radiator, the cooling system is going to give us peace of mind knowing that we have a good, efficient cooling system. We have an electric fan, so it's going to give us, again, better fuel economy. We haven't thought about gas stops, have we?
That's a real good question. So as we go through the rules, so I got to spend a lot of time going through all the rules, but we are going to have fuel stops on this thing because we're going to be going 2,300 miles in 9 days. I'm going to have to run a tank out to know exactly how far we're going to get on a tank, where we're going to be, and then I got to make sure, you know, everything that we've got has got to be the high octane for this motor.
Absolutely, and the thing is, once you get that reading in the odometer, miles per tank.
Yeah, we won't have the odometer. Everything that we do is time.
Yeah.
Everything that we
It's
do
like
is
bracket
speed
racing.
and time, speed and time. It's interesting because I've done a lot of racing, you've done a lot of racing. Mine's always been on road course, yours has always been on quarter miles. This is a whole new deal for us.
I know, and we think we're so cool and we're experienced, we're gonna find out real quick that we're novice.
I just don't want to come in dead last.
Oh, for sure, no, we won't. That'd be really bad. We got a fresh battery in there as well, so everything under here looks to be good. We got fresh fluids in it. The brakes look good. Everything looks good. Fresh fluid in the transmission.
You know, you build them, we've got to drive it, we've got to have fun. It's not going to be a museum piece, and it's going to be a great experience for Sam and myself. I mean, we haven't done anything like this.
No, we haven't.
So we're going to be learning. You know, both you and I are really good mechanics. Both you and I got a lot of racing experience. This is something totally new. All righty, let's jump in and go have some fun.
That T5 transmission we installed with the American Powertrain kit, that new drive shaft should give us good drivability and fuel economy.
Right, yep.
The only thing there is we're gonna have to make sure that we get the speedometer calibration exactly accurate,
yeah.
because we're going off speedometer and stopwatch.
Remember, we're going to get traffic, and we're going to have other cars, so we're going to have to run those calculations to know if we slow down what our average speeds are, how much we're going to have to pick it up. I mean, this is not going to be a cakewalk. The whole thing is that we have a good time, we have fun, and we're able to take you guys along so you can see what it's like on the Great Race, doing stuff that not very many people get to do. So we hope to bring you guys an absolutely wonderful experience Go online. There's a lot of advertisement for the great race, things that going on. Check our route. If we're up in your area, please come out and see us. Say hi. Sam and I are great people that just, we love to talk with you guys and hear your stories. We'll tell you our stories. Please come on out and see us. We're looking to have a lot of fun. Want to meet a lot of great people.
After years of development, lab testing, and real-world testing, NHOU is proud to offer their most eco-sensitive, best-performing oil undercoating ever formulated. What's the name, Joe?
It's Envirro, and it is a biodegradable product, and biodegradable meets the European standard for what is a biodegradable. It will basically pass any regulatory constraints that you have because it has passed the EPA's testing for aquatic life. So they've put it in with shrimp, minnows, sand fleas with absolutely no toxic release. And this isn't just a feel-good product. This product actually outperforms our base oil, which is pretty good. And the applications are numerous. Let's say you're a fleet and you're in a sensitive area like down Cape Cod where there's a water tablet. You can actually comply with every regulatory constraint that you have.
I bet city and state municipalities will really benefit from something like this. So if you guys want to protect your investment, add value to your investment, but don't have to worry about the environment, being that you're spraying oil on your car, check out NHOU's Envirro.
Welcome back to more Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Sam's putting the final pieces together as he completes the build of the mighty 392 HEMI engine. With precision and expertise, he's installing the camshaft and cylinder heads, bringing this powerhouse to life. Get ready to witness the culmination of hard work and dedication.
Got my engine back from Ewing Automotive Machine. This is going to replace the 5.7 stalker that's in the Chevy HEMI project. Now, I went with a complete SCAT rotating assembly. They have 50 years of innovation, design, and ingenuity under their belt. They are the high-performance leaders of engine components. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. I don't have a cam thrust plate yet. It's on order. I'm waiting for it to come, but I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble everything, install that later. But before I install my cam gear sprocket, I am gonna have to take it apart and put a limiter in there that Comp gives you in the kit. You guys make sure if you don't read any instructions like I don't, this is where you want to read your instructions and do this part correctly. We have a spring that allows this to move along with oil pressure. The spring is wound around that pin. I put a black mark on that. It is opposite the dowel that goes into the camshaft for centering it. You do not remove it. You just loosen it to where you can swing this plate over. You can put this limiter in any one of these holes. On the chain, there is a dot for the top one, and there are 2 dots to go around the bottom one. On a HEMI, the timing marks are opposite each other. On a Ford or a Chevy, the timing marks, the crankshaft and the camshaft point at each other. This one, the timing mark points down, and this one, the timing mark points up because Mopar. In the Comp's cam kit comes everything you need to do the install at home, including the limiter for the cam gear if you have a VVTi engine. The seals comes with everything you need, along with brand new valve stem seals. Mine are brand new, and the OEM is just like the aftermarket, so I get to save those in my toolbox for the next project. You also want to make sure to go online and get yourself something like this, a spring compressor, very easy. They sell them for the LS engines and they have them for the HEMIs. You saw how simple it was. It takes it down to about 1.5 minutes per valve. This is very nice. I got that on Amazon or eBay, okay? This is a bare head. There's no oil, nothing on this. When I took out the seat for the bottom of the spring, you want to make sure there's no oil there. If there is oil there, you want to wipe it all off because when you put the new seat down, you don't want liquid to be under it because the liquid won't compress and it may mess with your height and your valve spring at the end. The HEMI gaskets do matter, and so you just have to do your diligence and make sure you go off the shape of the port for the holes of the water. Left and right does matter. So one's gonna have an EGR port in the front and one is not, and that's it right there. That's the passenger side head. This is the driver's side head. That's gonna go right there. Time for us to put our push rods in. Now, when I tightened the head bolts, I went by the sequence given. But when it comes to these little guys, I tighten those at the very end. Make sure they're snug to about 25 foot-pounds or a nice wrist tightening. On a HEMI, the push rods are a different length between the intake and the exhaust. The shorter ones are intakes, the longer ones are exhaust. And you can very easily see where they go because you can see that the holes that carry the push rods, one's deeper, one's further forward. Shorter one goes into the deeper side. That's gonna be the intake. Longer one goes into the exhaust side. And 5 minutes later, we got a complete long block. Now, normally this would take about 25 hours in the shop if you were doing a complete camshaft installation. With the bottom end, that's about another $1,500 to $2,000 at the machine shop. That includes installation of the rotating assembly. And that rotating assembly from SCAT Performance comes fully balanced, so you guys don't have to worry about anything there. Now, with that fully forged assembly and the comp cam kit, this thing should easily make 1,000 horsepower as long as I don't get too overzealous on the timing. I can't wait to replace this with the one that's already in the Chevy HEMI truck.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Sam dives into the heart of a beautiful 66 Chevelle, but there's a problem. It's popping fuses and Sam's on the case. With his expertise and keen eye for detail, he's determined to uncover the source of the issue and get this classic back on the road where it belongs.
What an absolute beautiful 66 Chevelle. Bruce Byerla did an awesome job on this build. Unfortunately, right after the build was finished, he passed away. So he gave the car to his daughter and son-in-law, John, and we've had to work out the quirks in it. He only got to drive it one time. The attention to detail, bumper to bumper. 6-speed Tremec in it. The interior is so plush and comfortable. The car drives perfectly straight. There is no play in the steering wheel. It's just too bad that he's not here to be able to enjoy this. The reason why it's here is because John, when he was driving it with his wife, it would pop fuses. Until one day, it popped the main fuse and then the car would no longer drive. So it ended up here. I just kind of had to go through and find out what's going on. The first thing I had to look for is going to be the main fuse. And what he had for the main fuse is something that you would typically see in a instruction book where you'd be rewiring your car. So we had a regular fuse here, maxi fuse. He had a 70 amp in it. The 70 amp fuse was blown. The wire going to it looks like a 10 or a 12 gauge, powering up the entire car. How I found it was I was looking at the fuse was blown. So what I did was I replaced the fuse, let the car run and idle until the fans came on and everything worked like normal. Then I touched this wire and it was burning hot, and that's why the fuse was melting, is because there was so much resistance in the power wire that it was blowing the fuse, making the wire hot, and everything as far as component-wise was feeling it as well. For instance, the two fans were coming on at 172 and staying on. Then you have the fuel pump running 15 to 30 amps. Then you had the two windows, easy 15 amps each. So those fuses were all popping because there was resistance on the power side. The ground side is fine, except for you always want to do a body ground right next to the battery, to the negative terminal of the battery, and that's going to complete the ground circuit for everything as far as the components go inside the room of the car. What I had to do first was put in a proper power wire. So I got me a 4 gauge, went straight from the battery to a 200 amp fuse holder, because this thing requires a fuse that high because there's so much amp draw. If you have the AC on, the fans are on, the fuel pump's working, you roll up and down the windows, that's a lot of load. So you have to have at least a 2 or a 250 fuse on it. This is part of the instruction booklet. This is what they told you to do. And in a 50-year-old car, there are no power windows, there's no electric fuel pump. It's just an alternator, and usually that alternator is between 45 and 60 amps. So this setup would work just fine. We're building resto mods. For the last 20 years, we've been building resto mods. So everything in the instruction booklet is good for everything forward the fuse. But to power up that fuse, you have to have sufficient amperage, you have to have a big fuse block, and you have to have a good, solid, big, thick wire to run the power. It's very important. Your power is only as good as your ground is. So I saw that he had 2 fat grounds coming off each side of the engine block, going to the chassis. He scraped everything off. He did everything right there. But unfortunately, he just missed the body ground here, which took care of everything else underneath. But the main problem was the power wire going to it. When you're building yourself resto mods or any cars today, even if it's an old school car, you don't have any power windows. Don't put a 70 amp, put at least 150 amp and put in a 4 gauge minimum wire going to that fuse block and you should have no problems. Bruce did an amazing job building this 66 Chevelle. Now his family gets to enjoy it and his legacy is gonna live on. But John, you're gonna have to replace the 2 little pistons to hold up the hood. That's not Bruce's fault.
Be sure to check out Sam's Garage on these other media platforms. Send us questions and feedback to info@samsgaragetv.com. From unleashing the power of a C6 Corvette with new Flowmaster exhaust, to reviewing the meticulous work completed on the GT350 with Doug. Every moment has been filled with excitement and expertise. We witnessed Sam's masterful assembly of a 392 HEMI engine and his problem-solving skills as he troubleshooted a 66 Chevelle.